Jessii Vee, and as you can tell by the title of today's video, we're going to be talking about Cookie Monster, and not the one that you think from your childhood. This is a very creepy monster that lurks in basements that you definitely want to know about. I'm going to be telling you two very creepy stories today about this monster, and you're just never going to think of Cookie Monster the same after this. Before we get started, as you can see, I have a new November backdrop because Christmas and winter is coming up. I really wanted to have a wintry backdrop. So we got the mountains behind me, we have this really cool night sky, and I just love it. It's totally the vibe of this season that I wanted. So because I have a new backdrop behind me, that means I'll be announcing the winner of last month's Halloween backdrop. To enter, you had to go on to Instagram and tell me what your favorite Halloween type movie is to watch. And the winner is Jilly Bean's Art, and they said that their favorite movie to watch around Halloween is Coraline or Siren. I don't know if I've ever heard about Siren. Is that the TV show? Congratulations, Jill, and thank you to everyone else who entered. And if you would like to win this new wintry backdrop behind me, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, turn on your notification bell, and then head over to my book YouTube channel, subscribe there, and I'll just be picking someone who I see commenting on all of my recent videos that I'll be posting there this month. You can comment telling me a book that you read recently, maybe your favorite book of all time, maybe a book that you read recently that you didn't really like. Just comment anything you want on the new videos that I have been posting, and I will be announcing the winner in a few weeks. Now, if you want a bonus entry, and this is not essential, you do not have to do this to be entered, but if you would like a double entry, follow me on Goodreads. This is a completely free app. This is not sponsored. This is just a really awesome book app that I love using, and I will add you as a friend. I'm allowed to have, I believe, 5,000 friends on there. I'm about to hit 3,000. So if you want to be my friend on there before I'm unable to add any more people, definitely do so. I have linked it down below in the description. But yeah, that's all you have to do to be entered, and I'm so excited to give this awesome new backdrop away. Alright guys, so let's get right into today's video. Like I said, this video is not going to be about your classic Cookie Monster. He was created in 1969 and is one of the main characters on Sesame Street. He is covered in blue fur with large googly eyes. He constantly eats anything and everything, but cookies are definitely his favorite, and I loved him as a kid, so don't worry, this video is not about him. Okay, this first story is called Cookies for the Basement. This story comes from a guy named Brandon who says that when he was little, he remembers his grandmother having this very strange tradition. There was this time in his childhood where his parents took this new job across the world, so he had to live with his grandmother for 2 years. He remembers that she would do this strange thing where right before bed she would grab either a fresh baked cookie or one from a package, and she would open the basement door and stand there looking down the stairs into the darkness. She would lift the cookie out in front of her and would just toss it into the depths of the basement. He remembers always hearing it suddenly hit the floor and crumbling, and he would always just imagine there being this giant stack of moldy, stale cookies, just like all lying on the cold concrete floor down there. She would tell him that they needed to feed the Cookie Monster, or it would come up from the basement while they were sleeping and would eat them instead. Now, this story would sometimes give him nightmares if he was being honest. In his dreams, he'd see this horribly disfigured creature in the shadows grabbing the cookie and skittering away into the darkness. And so he would do this with his grandmother for 2 years straight. And for example, if they weren't able to come home one evening, his grandmother would get her neighbor to come over to the house and toss a cookie into the basement. Brandon just thought that this neighbor must have felt really sorry for the grandmother and not that they actually believed what she was saying. 10 years later, when he was in college and no longer living with his grandmother, he'd go back to visit her sometimes, and he would always ask her to just finally admit that the cookie tossing game was just something to scare him as a kid. But every time she would just look at him seriously, shake her head, and say that it wasn't. It was real. A couple weeks after he graduated, his grandmother unfortunately passed away, and he was able to visit her on her deathbed a couple couple hours before she died, and a chill went down his spine when she grabbed his arm and said, "Don't stop feeding him." The night that she died, he knew her house would be empty and no one would be there to continue her tradition. So he arrived there fully intending to fulfill her wishes. He even had this package of cookies with him ready to toss into the basement. But then his curiosity completely took over him. He opened the door to the basement and looked down, not able to see anything but darkness, and he decided to actually walk down the stairs, getting ready to see this giant pile of rotting cookies. But as soon as he reached the bottom of the stairs and turned on his phone flashlight, he saw that there was nothing there, just remnants of cookie crumbs on the cold concrete floor. Frustrated that he finally didn't find the proof he needed to know the stories were fake, he stomped up the stairs, closed the door, and put a lock on the handle so that he would never ever have to think about her basement monster ever again, and he would never have to feel guilty about not throwing the cookies down there. So he left her house for a week and did not return until he had to go and pick up her mail. So he walked into the house 7 days later and felt this chill as soon as he was in there, as if something was very wrong. Her house looked extremely messy, as if someone had run in there and just knocked over everything on the shelves, on the ground, and he didn't fully understand what had happened until he walked past the basement door. And he found that it had been completely destroyed and clawed apart from the inside. And that is how that story ends. So that is so creepy. So obviously this grandmother was not lying, and she was trying to keep something in her basement completely filled up with cookies so that it wouldn't come upstairs and eat them. So thank goodness no one was in the house when it escaped, but it makes me wonder, where is it now? All right, guys, this next story also is about a grandmother. It is called Grandma's Chocolate Chip Cookies, and this is a separate story from the one that I just told you. This is about a girl that inherited an old house from her grandmother after she passed away. It was small and cozy and exactly the kind of place you'd expect a grandmother to live. The only thing that was intimidating about it was the forest that bordered it, which loomed intimidatingly over it. Every year when it started to get cold, her grandmother would bake these delicious chocolate chip cookies. She said that she had to make them when the first frost hit the neighborhood and covered the windows. She had this recipe that she followed, and it was very, very precise. She always told her grandchildren to always have the exact right ingredients before they made these cookies. To remember even little things like cinnamon or salt. They always tasted amazingly, but they weren't allowed to eat all of them. Her grandmother would always put 4 cookies onto a plate and would leave them outside her house. Her reasoning was so that winter goes easy on this poor old house. So this girl inherited the house in the summer after her grandmother passed away, and as the months went by, it didn't take long for the trees to shed their leaves, and one day she woke up to a layer of frost on the windows. So she knew that she had to make those cookies to honor her grandmother's tradition. And luckily, because she had so many years of watching her grandmother make them, she thought that she just knew this recipe by heart, and so she began assembling the ingredients and mixing the dough. However, she failed to notice that she was out of one important ingredient. Right before plopping the mixture onto the pan, she attempted to sprinkle on a little bit of salt, just like what her grandmother would do, but nothing came out of the salt shaker. She was completely out. For a moment, she felt her heart drop, remembering with a tinge of fear how much her grandmother had stressed the importance of having all of the ingredients. But with no other options at the moment, she just popped them right into the oven. Soon the delicious smell of cookies filled the house, and she took them out of the oven, let them cool on the countertop. She looked out the window and assumed it must have been a very windy night because the dark tree branches were swaying back and forth very forcefully. And after eating as many as she could, she put 4 aside on a paper plate and placed them outside. But that night she went to bed with this strong feeling of unease, and in the middle of the night she woke up to this very loud sound of footsteps, and she sat up in bed to see a million handprints on her window. And they were all in varying sizes. Some were as small as a penny and some were as wide as a dinner plate, and they were just covering the frost on the window. Then she realized that the footprints were coming from above. Something or some things were on the roof. So she just had to sit there in the dark, listening to whatever those things were, trying to find a way into the house. And it occurred to her that maybe salt was the one ingredient that actually mattered. So yeah, I guess there was a whole slew of cookie monsters in that forest coming for her house. But it just shows you, listen to your grandmother. Whatever she tells you, listen to her. Anyways though guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this creepy cookie monster content. Don't forget, if you would like to enter to win this backdrop, just be subscribed, head over to my Jessie's Bookshelf channel. And yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!